What's up guys, this is Ray, and today we'll be talking about the 2003 Japanese movie Azumi, directed by Kitamura Ryuhei and starring Ueto Aya. And it's based off a manga written by Koyama Yu, which admittedly I have not read, but I have seen both Azumi and its sequel. And I remember when I first watched them, I genuinely enjoyed them, so I was pretty excited to go back and dive into watching Azumi again. The story of Azumi, it's about this orphan child by the name of Azumi, and she alongside with 9 other orphans are trained by this master named Gesai. So what are they being trained under Gesai to do? Well, Gesai is training them to become assassins, and the reason why is because Gesai, under instructions by his master, well, they both see the results of war, more specifically, the results of war being run by warlords, basically for their unjust and cruel means. So what they intend to do is, well, this takes place around the time after the Warring States period, when Ieyasu has unified Japan, or at least in this story, there are still some rebels lurking around, and they plan to rebel against Ieyasu and tear the country apart once again. So what Gesai is training these assassins to do is to take out these warlords before they can cause any uprisings. And so the way this story starts off with these 10 young assassins, 9 guys and 1 girl. Azumi is the only girl in this group, and for their first mission, what Gesai actually instructs them to do is to pair up with the person they like the most. So they make 5 pairs, and as their first mission for the road to becoming an assassin, they have to slay their partner. So this movie starts off pretty dark, in pretty dark territory. I mean, obviously you have the topic of war, but you also have the topic of slaying your best friend in order to become an assassin. And the idea behind this is so the students can kind of make their nerves like steel, make their heart cold, so that way they can ideally kill anybody they're tasked to do. So when it comes to the positive of Azumi, well, first of all, I love the level of darkness embedded in this story. I mean, obviously from the get-go, you have Azumi and her friends trying to kill each other, but then it kind of goes furthermore into a lot more violent and bloody territory, especially when it comes to displaying the action sequences. The action sequences were also quite a lot of fun. They combine not only just traditional type of sword choreography you would find in samurai films, but also they implement some wire work in this too to make you feel like they're not actually ninjas. These guys, they try to make a distinction between Azumi and her group as assassins from actual ninjas, which are also present in this story. But you get to see a lot of ninja action when they fly around and do all these cool stunts. And there's some memorable moments in the choreography in this. Like I remember, there's this one scene when Azumi, one of the things about Azumi, what makes her so special in this group is that she's the fastest. And one of the debates that she and her friends always get into, where does true strength come from? Does it come from the power of your swing, or does it come from your speed? And Azumi, of course, is the fastest of the group, and so she gets so fast that when she's moving around and cutting up bad guys, that they seem to be falling in slow motion as she's walking normally. And the way they implement this kind of special effects is pretty cool. And not just with the stylish choreography, they all obviously, of course, implement a lot of violent acts in this in the action. Some of the point where it's almost hilarious, but not in a bad way, but in an awesome way. Like there's one scene, like it's kind of in the final confrontation, there's one scene where Azumi cuts off the head of one of the bad guys, and she just throws it at the rest of his crew, and it almost as if she was either taunting them or telling them to back the F off. But that was just an eye-catching moment. It's like, did she just really just throw the dude's head at his friends? I also like the journey that they put Azumi through. Azumi, she's a character who starts off as an orphan, finds a family with her master and her 9 friends, but then suddenly she has to kind of put that family aside for the sake of her mission, because in the world, well, something that they always do in these kinds of ninja stories, or in this case an assassin story, is that they implement this idea that the mission is everything, and love and family, it has to get set off to the side, because you'll never know if you have to kill a friend, you'll never know if you have to kill a child. You have to put all emotion aside, you have to make your heart cold in order to proceed with the mission. And that's a big part of the story here, but that's also a big part of Azumi's story, story is that, she gets presented with these instructions, but she goes back and forth. She wants to still feel compassion, but at the same time she wants to complete the mission. So that's kind of where Azumi's character growth stems from. Another struggle that she gets put through is that, does she want to continue life in Assassin? Does she want to have life as a normal girl? So there are many themes with just self-discovery, just defining who you are, embedded with the themes of bloody violence in this story. And I also like the variety of supporting cast members that are featured in this movie, alongside Ueto Aya. There's also Oguri Shun. He has a very small part in this movie. He comes back for the sequel, but he has a very small part in this movie. And even Kitamura Kazuki, he's here playing a role befitting of his evil-looking eyebrows. And then we even have Takenaka Naoto, who normally I remember for his comedic roles, but he plays a bad guy in this movie. I think he does a pretty good job at it as well. With the action, the violence, the characters, dug them all. But when it comes to the negatives of Azumi, I thought it was pretty, like a lot of times it just ran off for pretty longer than it should have been. Some parts could have been edited so that way they went on quicker. I understand the intent to make a slow burn kind of effect, but sometimes it really just felt like it dragged. Another thing is that, when it comes to Ueto Aya's performance, I couldn't decide if she was trying to be like a stoic character or an emotionless character, because a lot of times she just seemed kind of bored with her facial expressions. So I was kind of uncertain as the type of character she was trying to bring out of Azumi. But when it came to her physical performance, I thought it was actually all right. You can tell she's not an action star by any means, but she did do an exceptional job at doing some of the ninja choreography that wasn't done by a stunts person. And this movie also suffers from the kind of thing that all manga adaptations suffer from, is that you get kind of a speed run through all these story arcs. You can tell whenever these mid bosses come in, that in the manga that's like a kind of a major arc, but they kind of, just because of the time limitations, this movie is about like 2 hours and maybe 10 or 20 minutes or something like that. And granted, that is a pretty long runtime, but a lot of this runtime is dedicated to long cuts, as I mentioned earlier. But when it came to actual the confrontations with these bad guys, I could these bad guys were really interesting. Like Odagiri Joe's Bijomaru, and you even have Endo Keiichi and Sakuguchi Taku in this. They play two of the three Sakiji brothers, and they were pretty interesting trio. But we only get a small brief time with them. Like I said, the thing with these manga adaptations is that they just skim. They scratch the surface. They skim through these arcs, and that's something that can't be helped because you're trying to fit within a 2 hour something runtime in these live action movies. But overall, what do I have to say about Azumi? Despite its flaws, I still absolutely love it. When it comes to ninja action, samurai style movies, this is definitely one of my favorites. If not for the spectacle of it all, especially for the final act. The final act is just a lot of fun. You can expect a lot of violence, a lot of stabby stuff, a lot of limbs and other parts flying off. This is a pretty dark and violent movie, and I think that really adds to the flavor of this movie. And I definitely recommend this to watch. It's definitely a classic when it comes to sword slashers in Japanese cinema. And I remember liking this one a lot more than the second one, but I still enjoy the second one too. If I ever get time to get around to watching and reviewing it, I'll definitely produce a video talking about Azumi too. But yeah, when it comes to the first movie, I definitely recommend watching it. Yes, those are my thoughts on Azumi. What did you guys think? Please let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And by all means, if you enjoy my content, please know you can support Eiga-Man Ray via Patreon from as little as $1. And yeah, that's about it for me, guys. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Hope to catch y'all again in the next video. Take it easy.